something up. There we are. Okay, so the very, very first question I have been dying to ask you is, what is an animal communicator? What is it?
Okay. So animal communication is something that happens on a telepathic level. So you're not actually saying anything out loud when you talk to the animal. So if I was talking to an animal at a zoo, no one would know that I was doing it. So it's connecting into their energy, into their soul, and you hear their voices in your head like human voices. So all animals have got different voices, just like humans. You can tell when they're laughing, when they're smiling. I've had some sing to me, which was very unexpected. Some of them are real practical jokers, and they really make me laugh when they answer the questions, because sometimes they just blow me away with what they actually say.
Yeah.
So you can do it anywhere over distance. So I've been overseas and I've communicated with animals in Australia for clients, and vice versa. I've spoken to animals overseas when I've been here in Australia. So you can do it anywhere, anytime. And it's just a matter of connecting in with that energy. And the same with the animals who are in spirit. When I do a mediumship session, again, I'm just connecting in with that animal's energy, and asking questions. So something your readers or listeners should know is that animal communication is their free will. So if they don't want to talk, they don't. But I've had no domestic animals that refuse to talk. Sometimes they may choose not to answer questions, particularly animals who have been abused or come from a foster background, and they don't want to reveal all the details about what's happened to them. So if they don't want to answer questions, I just respect that and I let the owners know. But usually they're just so excited that their owners have wanted to have a conversation with them, and it's often their first opportunity to be able to tell their owners things that they've been dying to tell them as well. So it's like a two-way conversation. I ask the questions that the humans want to know, and then I pass on the answers, but then I pass on the information that the animal wants their humans to know as well.
Excellent. So before we get into the real sort of nitty gritty of how that happens, because I've got some other questions that have popped up in my mind just based on what you've said. What I'm really fascinated to know is how you discovered that you had this talent. I mean, did you suddenly hear your cat talking to you, or did you see Dr. Dolittle and think, I'm going to talk to the animals? Or, how did it actually happen?
Yeah, okay. For years, I had always thought that my cats could understand what I was saying, and I just wished that I could understand what they were saying back to me. And it was terribly frustrating that I couldn't understand what they were saying. And vaguely in the back of my head, I'd heard something about animal communication, but hadn't really done anything about it. And then one of my special little girl cats passed away suddenly, and I just felt it was time for me to do what I needed to do with the animal communication. And so I looked online to try and find courses, and I found an online course, and the image of the cat on the home page was an exact image of my cat. And I thought, wow, here's a sign from the universe that this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And so at the time I had 2 cats with me, and so they became my very patient, tolerant teachers, because I had to do a lot of different exercises. So I had to ask them if they were happy to help me, and of course they were. So I had to do little things like sending them different colours or shapes or messages, and then get them to send things back to me. And then it's just sort of progressed on from there. So I've just sort of developed over time with that. I've done a few other little local courses in zoos and things as well, just to keep practicing. So I love going to zoos and talking to animals, and particularly if they pass on any concerns, like if their environment's too cold or they've got a health issue, then I can pass that on to their keeper as well. So it's helping them too.
Mm,
And
that
anyone
perhaps,
answering your, sorry, I didn't
yeah,
say, anyone can actually communicate, and we actually can all do it as children. So if you look at little kids, they'll go right up to animals and they'll tell you what the animal is saying. And it's the absolute
ah,
truth. And the
yeah.
channels are open when we're little, and something happens as we mature and we somehow block off that communication, but we can open it up again and start to do it all over again. So you
Ah,
can do
see.
it too.
Oh, is that
And
right?
all the listeners can as well.
Ah, well, it's interesting actually because as a house sitter, I have to look after a lot of different animals, lots of different pets, and I've looked after obviously the normal ones, the cats and the dogs, but I've also looked after snakes, horses, guinea pigs, fish. I mean, we're looking after guinea pigs and fish at the minute, and cats as well, two cats, and I've always been able to kind of get to know the animals really quickly and and sort of have a bond between us, a connection. Now I wouldn't by any stretch of the imagination say that I could talk to animals or understand animals, but I have often said, oh, it's all right, I'm the cat whisperer, or it's all right, I'm the dog whisperer, or something like that, because I'll actually go to the cats very closely, and I'll notice that their behavior is different or something like that, and I'll notice very quickly, and then I'll know when they want a hug, or but I can't imagine what that's like for you. I mean, do you hear words in your head or colors or shapes, or what is it that you see?
Mhm. Yep. So part of being able to do that process is what you've just described. It's having that intuitive connection with them, and that's part of it. It's understanding their frequency, and they know who they feel comfortable with, so they will know that you're a person who's there for their highest good and their benefit. And so that really helps build a rapport with them as well. But when they talk, yes, you hear the voices in your head. And so it's really interesting listening to them. I've had several that sound as though they've been university professors. Just with the language, they can use really sophisticated language. And like I think I'm very well read, but a couple of times I've looked up the thesaurus to make sure that what I think they mean is what they actually meant.
Yeah,
Um,
because I was going to ask you actually, do you hear accents and different tonality and that sort of thing,
uh,
or?
they talk in English to me, and if I don't understand what they're trying to say, I ask them if they can show me an image. So sometimes I get like little video snippets that they put in my head somehow, and then I get the message from that. I went to a zoo near me here in Queensland, and an emu came up to talk to me, and he was going woomph, 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 which is how they talk. And of course, I had no idea what he was saying. So I just introduced myself and telepathically and said that I was a communicator, but I couldn't understand emu. And would he be able to talk to me in English, or could he show me pictures of what he wanted to tell me? And then he did both. He spoke to me and showed me some pictures. So that was really interesting. But yes, I hear it as an English voice or speaking English to me.
Right, right. And what's been your, let's see, when you've spoken to animals, what's been your most fascinating insight so far with all of the animals that you've spoken to? Like something that's made you go, wow, I didn't know that about an
One of
animal or animals in general.
yeah, one of the things you learn in an animal communication course is to not try and decipher or interpret what the animal is saying. So if they say something, you need to pass the message on to the human and let the human understand it. So one of the cats in spirit I spoke to was a beautiful boy who had been blind, and he passed away in tragic circumstances. So his mum had lots of questions for him. And so he was really happy to answer all the questions and help with her grief process. And then at one stage through the conversation, he said to me, Rumpelteazer. And I'm thinking, did he mean Rumpelstiltskin? And I haven't heard it properly. And if it is Rumpelstiltskin, how's that relevant to the conversation? So I thought,
Hmm.
I doubted myself, which is easy to do when you're just learning how to do it. And so I just kept on with the conversation. And then he said it again, and I thought, okay, I obviously have to pass this message on. So I said to his mum, has he ever been called Rumpelteazer? And I was chatting to her on Messenger at the time, and she might actually be watching this session now. And then I got this message from her saying, oh, I'd forgotten that. And apparently when she rescued him, he was living with a dog called Rumpel. and he used to get in trouble for teasing the dog. And of course, he couldn't see the dog because he was blind.
Oh,
But it was something that he did so that his mum would know beyond doubt that I was actually connected to the soul of her cat. And for me, it's just been profound confirmation that, you know, there was no way I would have known that word. I hadn't spoken to the mum before. I didn't know anything about the cat. And for that word to just come through the universe into my head just blew me away. So it's just amazing what they can say. And particularly for animals in spirit, they pass on messages which make sense for their parents so that they're reassured that they're okay. And they can confirm names of animals that they're with that have passed over as well, or even humans from the family that they're now with, just so that the family know that they're not alone and that their soul has transitioned safely, and that they're okay.
yeah.
So,
So,
but they're just, and the intelligence, that's the other thing. They're just so intuitive. They know what's going on with health issues with their humans.
oh,
And often they take on health issues for us as well, even though we might be totally unaware that they're doing that. And they just do it because they want to be of service to us. And so sometimes when I find out what's actually going on, the human needs some healing so that the animal can get better, and then they don't have to keep carrying those symptoms all the time.
wow.
So there's some of the key learnings. The other thing that I had no idea about was the reincarnation of the animal souls.
Oh, okay. Now I'm
And
very interested in this because
I,
my mother passed away. Funnily enough, it's the anniversary of her passing away. And she always said to me, there was two things that she said. She said, first of all, she said, I'm not going to live beyond 45, and she didn't.
mm,
And the other thing that she said to me is that she's going to come back as a cat. And I swear to God, every cat I meet, I'm looking for my mum in my cat. So yeah, so it would
you'll
be
know
fascinating.
when you meet her. There'll be something about the mannerisms. You'll recognize something on a soul level, whether it's something when you're connecting with the eyes, you'll absolutely know. So I had no idea about this, but a couple of my cats have now done this so that I could write about it in my book and let other people know. And
Mm,
now I've had a number of clients where their animals have known before they've passed away that they're coming back in this lifetime and what body they're coming back in. So sometimes they come back as the same breed of animal, sometimes it might be completely different. Sometimes they swap sex, and sometimes they're not very happy about coming back as a boy or a girl when they've been the other. But you can hear that in their voices as well. It's very interesting to get their views. And she had nothing wrong with her heart, no health issues. And so it was just a complete shock. And I didn't know how long I'd have to wait to be able to talk to her after she passed over. But fortunately, I connected with her that day. And so I said, "What did you do that for?" And she said, "Oh, I needed a new body." And I'm
oh,
like, that's just what people do. So she didn't think it was odd at all. And so she knew that she had the opportunity to come back in a specific kitten body, which she described to me.
yeah.
And she came back very quickly. And interestingly, her brothers weren't mourning her or moping around the house or anything. They knew that she was coming back, and they actually said to me that it was a temporary reprieve before she was back to boss them around again. And then she came back and she's got the same mannerisms. She sits in the same place that she sat before, very similar. When they come back, because they've learnt their life lessons in their
Mm,
previous life, they come back as a higher evolved version of their self.
mm,
So they've integrated the lessons from the previous lifetime, but they've chosen to come back and spend another lifetime with their human, which is just a huge gift. It doesn't always happen,
mm,
um, but it's very interesting. And some of the people I've spoken to have had a dog or another animal that's actually been in that soul has been in their life 3 times in this lifetime.
right.
Sometimes they've been in past lives with us. So some of my cats have been with me in ancient Egyptian times. So
Mhm.
our souls have been intertwining in different lifetimes for thousands of years. It's absolutely fascinating. So I have no doubt, and I got confirmation when you were talking about your mum, that yes, you will recognise her,
Right.
and she just has to find the body to come back in. But you'll definitely recognise something about her and know that it's her. And it's just beautiful when they can do that.
Yes, yeah. Oh, well, that will be a beautiful day when that happens. That's for sure. I mean, one of the things that you were talking about is that you were saying about the fact that you talk to these animals that have passed on and you're able to pass the message on to their human owners. Or do we call them owners or friends? What do we call them?
I call them
Because,
parents
yeah,
or
yeah,
carers. Yeah,
yes, yeah. And it must actually be very it must really help people get over that grieving process. Is that what you find?
yeah. I think it's tricky because some people have to make the decision to let their animal pass over, and
Hmm.
that's a really difficult emotional thing to, have to take them or have someone come to the house to do that.
Mm.
And then there's people where the animal passes away when they're not at home, and so they haven't had a chance to say goodbye. And so, in either scenario, there's elements of remorse and regret and guilt, and a lot of grief, and that can be there for years. I've spoken last year to a dog that passed away over 20 years ago. And so that family's been carrying that grief and unanswered questions for all that time. And so for the dog too, it was just a lovely opportunity just to alleviate some of their fears and explain what actually happened. And that's something too, when you don't know what's happened, and if the vet can't tell you what's actually happened, then often there's a lot of guilt about that as well. Like, should we have been able to pick up something earlier? Should we have done something more to help them? And one of the dogs I spoke to recently had something that they just couldn't predict. It was just a random thing that happened. And the animals don't hold any grudges against their humans for the decisions that they make about their health. They're just incredibly grateful that they've had that opportunity to receive love and the security in a home, that they're getting fed, they're getting cared for. And they appreciate that we grieve when they go, because they can see that happening to us from the other side, and they're frustrated because they can't come and physically comfort us, and they're trying to do that. But what they do once they pass over, and the same with human souls as well, from the conversations I've had, the soul goes through a healing process. So particularly when the animals have had a lot of physical illnesses, when they pass over, they get healing with that first. And then I see them running around and playing and doing all sorts of things. And it's just like they're going back to, early childhood, kind of, that they're just totally invigorated again. And
Mm.
once they've had that healing on all different levels, then they can travel back on an energetic level and visit us in the house. And again, lots of people have either seen their animals, they've heard them, they've felt them on the bed, they've felt a paw touching their face, they can feel the pressure of them lying on the bed snuggled up against them. And so they do everything that they can to let us know that they're there in the house with us. And
Mm.
often the other animals there will know, and you'll see them and they'll just be looking straight at something that you can't
Ah,
see, and
yeah.
they just know that that animal is there. And when my girl who passed away used to come and visit before she came back again, my boys would just be sitting there and I'd know, okay, she's here. And so I just put my hand up behind me where she used to sit on the chair and stroke her as though she was still there.
Ah,
And that's exactly where she went as soon as she came back again as a kitten. That's her spot. No one else sits up there. So,
ah.
yeah,
Well,
it's really interesting.
that is interesting because I've often told the story about I had a Doberman, and I was married at the time, and my husband used to go away on business. And whenever he went away on business, now I'm not a great one. I'm not one of these people that really like my pet to be on the bed. But I must admit, when my husband used to go away for business, he would climb up on the bed. But because he knew he wasn't allowed to get on the bed, he used to do it in this way where he would put one paw, his sort of head would lay on the bed first, then he put one paw up, then the other paw up. And I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get a back leg up, one of them, and then the other back leg up. And then he would get on the bed and you would feel him flop. So this is something that he used to do, and I used to go, "Okay, Bosie, come on then, you can stay here." Now he only lived for 5 years. He had a very short life, which was very sad. But I remember shortly after he passed away, my husband at that time went away for work on business. And I swear that I could feel him on the bed doing the whole head,
Yeah.
one paw, then the other paw, back paws, and then he flopped and he snuggled right into my back. And I actually said to him, I know you're there and it's lovely. And
Yep,
I've
beautiful.
often told that story, and you know, people glaze over, and I'm sure they don't believe me. But now you've actually affirmed that for me, so
Yep,
that's
I'm just gone
amazing.
buzzy all over my arms and legs. So it's absolute confirmation of my soul that you're telling the absolute truth. So,
Yeah,
and they really want us to know that they're there, and they want to comfort us. They know it's so hard when we're separated. You know, they don't want to leave us any more than we want them to leave us.
yes,
And sometimes they will be able to orchestrate another animal coming into our life to help heal our heart, because they know that's the issue. And a lot of people feel really guilty about, you know, when should I start looking for an animal? And it's not as though it's a replacement animal, but it's being ready to open your heart up again to being able to love another animal, and knowing that you're still respecting that previous animal. So it's no disrespect to them when you bring another animal into the house. You've loved that animal, you know, you might have photos up like a little shrine to them or something. And it's interesting because sometimes the animals that have come back go and sit near the photos of the animals whose soul they've got in them.
oh, okay,
And, you know, just giving a message that, you know, that's
yeah,
me, this is
ah,
me. And
yeah,
yeah, really interesting. But something else then is that you can communicate with the animal who's passed over
mm,
and the animal who's now got that aspect of the soul in it, who's with you now.
mm-hmm,
So my girl who passed over, I have lots of chats with her because she's very knowledgeable about healing. But I also talk to my new cat who's got her soul in it as well. And so
mm,
that does things to my head, trying to get my head around how you're talking to two aspects of the same soul.
yeah,
One's in spirit and one's in the physical reality with you. So I've just experienced so many unusual things, but I'm sure that my cats have let me do this, and then all the other animals I've spoken with as well, just so that I can reassure other parents and let them know that they're not crazy, and that if their animal has passed away and they think it's been and visited them, it
mm,
will have been and visited them. So,
right, yes,
uh,
yeah,
and that really gives a lot of comfort as well, to know that they can come and do that.
yeah,
And, you know, if they can get another animal to come into your life to help you heal, or if it's their destiny that they come back in a different body. Um, yeah. And as I said, sometimes they know before they pass away. So that's been really beautiful when I've been able to connect with animals that are very close to passing away, because once you know that they're coming back again, that changes the whole grief process.
mm,
Yes, you miss that you know, the soul that was there, and that being that's been with you, but then there's the anticipation of, you know, what are you going to recognize when they come back again, and how long is it that you have to wait till they come back. um, so when my girl did that, I didn't know how long I'd have to wait, and I think a lot of people thought I was crazy when I said she's coming back, but she came back. So
that's lovely.
yes.
So really, as humans, it's almost like an education process for us, isn't it? To understand that they do come back, they will come back, and actually, even when they're here, we can communicate with them. We just have to perhaps tune in a bit more. Before I go on, I just want to acknowledge that we've got some people on the live at the moment. So good morning, Geraldine. How lovely to see you, and good morning, Emily. Good morning, Donna. Lovely to see you. If you've got any questions, we've got about just over about 6, 7 minutes left. If you've got any questions that you would like to ask Annie about your pets, or perhaps even how you could communicate better with your animals, that might be a good way of doing it, then do pop those questions down below, and I'll keep glancing at my phone and check in to see if you've got any questions there. Fascinating conversation, absolutely fascinating. So if I wanted to communicate better with any of my pets, what would be the best way of doing that?
I think it's getting into a certain headspace, um, where you're trusting and open to hearing things. And I think that's one of the first hurdles that people have to get past, to think that it's not crazy. And when you first do hear them, like my boy, when he first spoke to me, said sore left hip, and it was just clear as a bell, as though someone was standing right next to me and saying it. He'd never shown any signs of having a hip problem, but when we x-rayed him, he had arthritic changes in his hips at quite a young age, and his left was a lot worse than the right. But he'd jump around and do everything. I had no idea. So yeah, so it's you're sort of not going to sleep, but it's not changing your consciousness, but it's just, I think, changing your brain waves to a certain level, so that you're open to hearing something coming in and not having all the daily mind chatter going on about what you need on the shopping list and what you're cooking for dinner and all of that kind of
Mm,
stuff.
mm,
And it's just focusing on them. And it's a respect thing too. Like when I do it, I, in my head, introduce myself to the animal and tell them that I'd like to talk to them and ask them some questions if that's okay. And as long as they're agreeable, then ask the questions. And then you just wait and see what comes into your head.
right.
But
So,
it's like a joining of the souls. Like it's a very deep, respectful, spiritual
mm.
kind of connection.
So being in a more sort of relaxed state of mind, like you
Mm,
say, without having all of that clutter going on,
yes.
maybe putting yourself into some form of meditation slightly. Is that what you
Yes,
would?
and I've
Yeah.
been in classes where people have done that, and we've had to visualize a flower going up a wall and going across the ceiling and doing all sorts of things. So just blocking out everything else that's going on and just really focusing on something different.
Yeah.
Um, but then it's just really interesting when the voices come in and what they actually say. But it's again, um, you need to have the mindset that you can hear an animal talk and that they
Mm,
can talk and communicate, because some people are just totally blocked and
mm,
they just think there's no way an animal can communicate. You know, they're just a furry thing or a feathered thing or a scaly thing or a whatever,
yes.
and that they don't understand at all, but they
Yeah.
actually are very, very gifted in what they understand about us as human beings, our emotional issues, our physical issues,
Mm.
and as I said, the language that they use to describe what's going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I've noticed things like that, and I'm sure that all you pet lovers out there, and those that are parents to your beautiful animals, will know when they know that you're sad, or they'll know when you're happy, and that they'll kind of. I do find that they'll come up to you if they're sad to comfort you. For instance, they'll comfort you, or they'll want to be comforted if something's going on for them as well. I mean, we know what cats are like. They're very independent, aren't they? But I do find that cats will come to you when they either need you or that they can sense that you need them, which
Exactly.
I think is lovely. I think it's absolutely adorable. I mean, do you find now this is interesting? You know how we've got this kind of idea of dogs being always really happy and crazy and so pleased to see you. They're very, very unconditional, aren't they? Are they like that in their personalities?
Oh, look, the personalities are really different when you're talking to them, but you just reminded me about a couple of things then with what you were talking about, which have now escaped me. When we're ill, our vibrational frequency drops. And our animals are very sensitive to vibrational frequency. So that's why they know when we're not well, and they'll come up and be very smoochy and hang around us.
Mm.
And for those of us who have got animals who are healers, they'll spend a lot of time lying on us or near us to help with our healing as well. So they just really are very
Mm.
intuitive. Yes.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now we're actually we're just slightly over time, which is absolutely fine. We're not going to rush, but what I'd like to do is give you the opportunity. I'm just going to check on the questions while you do this, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell us who you're looking for in terms of your ideal client. Who is it that you would like to be able to serve?
Mhm. So, first of all, parents of animals who are concerned about behavioural or health issues, or just want to know if their animal is happy, people who are considering getting another animal added to their family and wanting to know if their existing animals would like to have another person coming into the house. Because that's one of the things I've found as well, whether it's a new baby coming into the house or a new partner or a new animal, that energy gets changed in the house, and that really affects the animals because they're used to being with you. And
Mm,
if there's anyone else in the house, that changes how they interact with you. So it's really important to still keep spending one-on-one time with them and reassuring them that everything is okay, because you are their world. Um,
yes.
so, yes, so definitely animal parents who want to know more about what's going on with their animals. And then the other ideal clients are the bereaved animal parents who need to have some closure or answers or some peace of mind about what's actually happened, and know that their animal soul is still okay. And it's just really rewarding having those conversations, even though they're not, the animal's not with the human, just to know that they are okay. And then particularly if the animal knows that it can come back, then that's really helpful for the humans as well. So both of those are the main kind of clients that I work with. But I also do healing. So as I said, sometimes our animals do take on our health issues for us. And I've had my lovely cat, who's in the background here, Tierney, has done that for me twice now. He took on some respiratory issues for me just before I went on a retreat to write the 2 books, so that my respiratory symptoms would get better quicker, so that I could go. And he hadn't been anywhere, not mixing with any other animals. And then recently he did something else to help with my health issues as well. And as I said, they're very humble about it. They don't mind doing it. They love being of service. So sometimes you need to look at, if the animal has health issues, I have to find out, are they taking on something for their human? And then letting the human know, so that the human can make some changes, and then the animal will get better as well. And sometimes both of them need healing. So that's another aspect of my work.
Okay. Wonderful.
Plus, I've also written my 2 books, which you talked
Oh,
about
yes.
earlier, which both went #1 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So The Bridge to Animal Consciousness and Evolving Hearts and Souls. So they're both available as ebooks or paperbacks.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of your links in the comments below. This video is going to be uploaded to YouTube as well, so we'll put your links on there also. Anybody that wants to have a spotlight session, just get in touch with me and you can be included in one of these spotlight sessions. And of course, you'll get the recording and you can use it in any way that you want to use it as well. Now, I've actually found this spotlight session absolutely fascinating. Really have enjoyed it. Now, before we actually close off completely, what is the best way that people can get in touch with you, Anne?
Okay, so my website is www.cosmicheartintuitive, all one word, .com.au, or on my Facebook page is either Annie Bourke, and my name's on the screen at the moment, or my business Facebook page, which is Cosmic Heart Intuitive, and they can message me either from the website or the 2 Facebook pages.
Excellent. I've actually, while you've been talking, I've got 2 people that I'm going to put in touch with you. One lost their dog probably about 8 years ago, and he grieves a lot for the loss of that particular dog. So I'm going to put you in touch. And then I have a lovely lady who I house sat for in France, and she had, oh gosh, how many? 7 cats. And I'm going to put you in touch with her as well, because she recently lost one of those, and I know that she feels terribly guilty about what happened with that particular cat's passing. And she's got a huge cat, literally huge, like a Garfield cat, Jimmy, and I'm sure that she would love to be able to have a chat with him. So I'm going to put you in touch with those 2 people as well. I'd like to just say thank you very much, Annie. This has been really fascinating, really amazing. My cat is just sitting over the back there, and she's been sitting here. I've just glanced at her. She's been sitting here just looking and listening very inquisitively as to what's been going on. So I'd like to just round this off and say thank you very much, Annie. I will put all of your links below, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Still keep asking your questions, because even though the recording will be finished, Annie is in the group, and she will be able to answer your questions as well. So just put those down below, and I'd like to say thank you once more.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
It was great fun. Thanks very much, Annie, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.